My name is Jason. My official rank and title is Instructor Heloja. I teach here in Prosper, Texas. I've opened my academy now. I'm going on about 6 months, but I've been teaching for about 14 years. I started with Dallas Capoeira. I trained there for the last 13 years, and then I moved here, and I've been teaching here over the last 6 to 8 months. So a quick brief history of Capoeira. A lot of people know Capoeira from the video game Teken or from the movie Only the Strong, but the history of Capoeira goes all the way back to slavery. Capoeira was started as a martial arts so that slaves could defend themselves. Essentially, they wanted to disguise the martial arts as a dance. So they incorporated acrobatics, musical instruments, songs, and what we call malicia, which is trickery in their movements. So unlike other martial arts where we stand and throw punches and kicks, we disguise those kicks with dance-like movements and acrobatics. What inspired me to do capoeira essentially was I wanted to learn a martial art, and at the time I was already training Krav Maga, and I did some jiu-jitsu, and we did some Muay Thai at the time. I did Kung Fu for a couple of years. And the difference between those martial arts is that they're very one-dimensional, in my opinion. Right? There's a huge culture and art form that comes with capoeira. You don't have instruments in other martial arts. You don't have instruments in jiu-jitsu and in Muay Thai and those other art forms. But capoeira has musical instruments. We also have acrobatics. We have flips. We have flexibility. So it's a martial art that you can train from the age 3 to the age 80 to 90. It was very inspiring to me because when I started training, I was heavily into lifting weights and bodybuilding and the things that you do in your youth. But what I've learned is that you have to train for your body. So certain martial arts are really good on your body that you can train for your whole life. So capoeira is one of those things that you can train forever. You never really master it. There's a title of master, but you're always training and you're always learning. Jiu-jitsu is also one of those martial arts where you're always training, you're always learning, you're always growing, and you can train these martial arts for the rest of your life. Not a lot of them are that way because they're very hard on the joints, very hard on the body, very hard on that. Capoeira's not that way. You can continuously to evolve your game and evolve your movements. This is what we're taught, and this is what history has taught us about capoeira, is that as slaves were bought and sold, as they were in camps and they were in places in Africa and Brazil, and they were coming over on boats, this art was communicated to each other. And this art was also used to communicate to the rest of the world. I mean, to the rest of the slaves and the other communities that were around. And so rhythms were developed. Rhythms were developed to communicate to each other, but also to communicate to other slaves that, hey, the police are coming. So there's a rhythm called cavalleria that means, hey, the cavalry is coming, the police is coming. There's a rhythm that says, oh, the masters are playing. We're only going to play a rhythm that's specifically for masters. Right? So essentially, capoeira was a way to disguise how to defend yourself. There's a very famous story about a guy named Besouro. And Besouro was a legend in capoeira. He was a master, and capoeira gave him all these mystical powers. And he would fight and free slaves, and he would fight injustice, and he would fight these things. And this was back in the 1800s that these people were in little villages, and slaves were in little villages. Slave owners and masters would come around, and they would try to harm and injure slaves and things of that nature. And slavery and capoeira were kind of hand in hand. And so pretty much everyone knew capoeira. If you think about at that time in Brazil and in Africa, where these camps and these stories are coming from, this is what they knew, and it was passed down from person to person. Capoeira gets a bad rap. It gets a very, very bad rap because you think about over the years what capoeira had to go through to get to what it is now, right? It's a very family-oriented martial arts. children train it, they teach acrobatics, they learn self-defense, but they also learn movements and communication. They also learn another language, right? The language we speak is Portuguese. They learn another language. But capoeira wasn't always what it is today. So in the early 1900s, it was still outlawed in Brazil. So after slavery, people were still training capoeira, but it was outlawed in Brazil. Only thugs and criminals and thieves did capoeira. And there was a guy named Mestre Bimba who decided to legitimize capoeira. He's attributed for doing that. He didn't invent capoeira, but he's given the most credit for giving it accreditation, right? Essentially, he was the guy that said, hey, let's wear uniforms. Let's have a rank system. Let's make sure that my students have jobs. Let's make sure that they are part of the community. And he put on a presentation for the president of Brazil at the time. And after the presentation, the president decided that capoeira was no longer outlawed. And if you look it up, it's one of the national martial arts of Brazil.